ahead of the break, we were taking a look at the technology sector globally and here in South Africa, and Mohammed Nala making a point saying that, Apple is the kind of company that's riding on the back of consumer strength as opposed to, economic growth globally. Of course, that's setting the tone for the kind of retail environment we're faced with right here in South Africa. We're anticipating retail sales numbers later today. What are your broad expectations on that front?
Well, Alishia, we are expecting retail sales to soften as we move into the final months of this year. But for today's number, I'm looking at the August data, we are expecting an increase to about 4.5% year-on-year in August from 4.2% year-on-year in July. Yes, there have been a number of supportive factors that have been driving an increase in retail sales, such as the low interest rate environment and possibly incomes. But we also have to bear in mind that consumers are particularly wary about where their financial positions are going and the uncertainty about the economic recovery, or rather the fact that we're still seeing very slow and softer economic growth going forward. I'm just looking at the confidence data that we saw coming out from consumers for the third quarter. We saw that improving slightly but still remaining in negative territory at -1 points from -5 points in the first quarter. So we still expect consumers to tread cautiously into the final months of this year, with the month-on-month numbers could possibly be fairly low or possibly into negative territory as we move into December.
Shireen, just looking at these strikes that we've been having and these big numbers of people that are threatened with dismissal or have been dismissed. Now, on the one hand, there's a knock-on effect there. The estimates vary, 10, 12, 15 people per major breadwinner for those strikers. But also, jobs are not being created. Jobs may be lost because of indirect effects of the strike action. When do we start factoring that into retail consumption? Or isn't it big enough to affect the overall retail picture?
Oh no, indeed, it is big enough to affect that overall retail picture. We saw 25,000 jobs according to the quarterly labour force survey having been added in the second quarter. And just looking at the mining sector as well as the manufacturing sector, which in the second quarter lost about 44,000 jobs. Taking into account what's happened already in the mining sector, we could see further pressure coming through from the labour market, and that's obviously going to have an impact on consumer spending. And just taking a look at how big household consumption expenditure is a part of GDP, close to 60%, it is a real worry for GDP growth and could possibly add significant downside pressure to our 2.5% GDP growth that we've already priced in.